In the high Atlas village of Tizi, an ancient rule still holds sway. When a woman dies unmarried, her body must be washed 40 times, wrapped in 40 meters of white cloth, and buried before the 40th sunset. They say if the 40th night passes and she has not been properly mourned, she will return, seeking what life denied her. This is the story of Lalla Aicha. She died just 3 days before her wedding. Her fiancé Mohammed had gone to the souk in Demnate to buy the fine gold for her wedding belt. On his return journey, disaster struck. His mule slipped on an icy path high above the Asif Nesugu, and both man and beasts plunged into the gorge below. They found the mule first, its neck broken. They never found Mohammed, and so Aicha was buried as she had lived unwed. Her hands were beautifully decorated with henna, her hair braided with jasmine flowers that began to wilt even before her coffin was sealed. The women of the village wept, as custom demanded, but grief has its limits when winter is harsh and the living must be tended to. Life moved on. On the 40th night, a wind howled through the village, screaming like a woman in the throes of childbirth. An old woman named Hadabuadi awoke with a metallic taste of iron in her mouth. She lit her oil lamp and peered into a courtyard. There, in the fine dust, were footprints. They were the prints of bare female feet, long and narrow. They led from her gate right to her door, and then they just stopped, as if the person who made them had been lifted into the sky, had and knew instantly whose feet they were. She shook her son, Brahim, awake. Bar the door, she whispered urgently. Do not open it for anyone tonight. At the 3rd hour after midnight, the knocking began. It was soft, patient, the kind of knock a new bride makes when she arrives at her husband's home for the very first time. Brahim, curious, pressed his ear against the heavy wooden door. A voice drifted through, as sweet as orange flower water. Brahim, open for me. I am so cold. It was Aicha's voice, unmistakably. He had grown up with her, playing knucklebones in the dust. He remembered her laugh. His hand instinctively moved toward the iron latch, but his mother slapped it away with surprising force. That is not Aicha, she hissed. Aicha has been dead for 40 days. Whatever is outside is wearing her voice the way a wolf wears sheepskin. The knocking ceased. Then, a song began. It was a low, mournful Nawa melody, the same tune the women had sung while washing Aicha's body. But the words were new and chilling. I waited 40 nights. No husband's henna on my hands, no silk belt around my waist, no child to hold at my breast. Open the door, cousin, let me in, so I may take what is rightfully mine. A cold dread seized Brahim. He felt the ancient pull of kinship, the bond of blood. Aicha was his cousin. His knees weakened. His mother saw the conflict in his eyes and grabbed his face with both her hands, forcing him to look at her. Listen to me. She is not asking for shelter. She is asking for a groom. If you open that door, she will drag you down into the grave and marry you there. And every year on this night, she will come back for another man from our family, until her debt is paid. An eerie silence fell over the house, and then a smell crept under the door, the scent of jasmine, thick and cloying, the perfume of a corpse dressed for a wedding. The iron latch began to lift, all by itself. Slowly, the door creaked open just a finger's width. Through the gap, Brahim saw her. Aicha stood bathed in the pale moonlight, wrapped head to toe in the same white shroud she was buried in, now stained gray with dirt from the grave. Her face was hidden behind a traditional bridal veil of silver coins, but the coins had all turned black, and where her eyes should have been, 2 small oil lamps burned with an unnatural blue fire. She raised one hand. The henna patterns on her skin were perfect, dark and fresh, as if painted only yesterday, and clasped between her fingers was the gold belt. The very belt Mohammed had died trying to bring her, the one that was never found with his body. Come, cousin, she whispered, her voice a siren's call. I have waited long enough. Brahim, mesmerized, took a single step forward. In a flash, Haida threw herself between her son and the apparition, holding up the old, heavy iron key to the village mosque. By the 99 names, I command you back to your grave, she cried. The bride didn't flinch. She could see the veil shift, revealing the shape of a smile beneath. She lifted the hem of her shroud, just enough to show her feet. They were turned backwards, heels where the toes should be, and toes pointing behind her, the telltale sign of the returned dead. The blue flames in her eyes flared violently. As Haida began to recite the powerful Ayat al-Kazi, her voice cracking like ice, the bride hissed. It was a sound like sand being poured over hot iron. She took one step back, then another. With every holy verse Haida spoke, Aicha retreated until she stood at the very edge of the courtyard. There, she stopped. I will come again, she promised, and her voice was no longer sweet. It was the collective, sorrowful voice of every woman who had died waiting. Every year on this night, until one of you loves me enough to follow. Then she turned her backwards, feet making no sound at all, and melted into the darkness. But the footprints she left behind were perfect, facing forward, as if she had walked away like any living woman. To this day, in the village of Tizi, they still bar their doors on the 40th night after an unmarried woman dies. And every year, when the wind howls down from the peaks of Jebel Tubkal, carrying the faint, sickly sweet smell of rotting jasmine, The young men stay inside. They know the bride is still walking the mountain paths, her backwards feet searching for the husband who never came. And sometimes, on the loneliest of trails, shepherds will find a gold wedding belt lying in the dust. It is always clean, shining, as if waiting to be claimed, but no one ever touches it. They know who it belongs to. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe for more tales from the shadows.